We're live.
Patrick, you're muted.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Patrick O'Riordan, and I'm the director here at the Department of Building Inspection. DBI has made a lot of progress over the last year, and we certainly hope that you have noticed the difference. We obviously intend to build on that foundation over the coming year and continue to focus on the areas, on certain areas to improve our operations. Those areas being accountability, transparency, efficiency, and customer service. But we couldn't move forward, until we knew exactly where we were. So in early December, we asked our customers to complete a short survey about our service. And I'm sure many of you in this meeting participated in that, and thank you for doing so. The survey results were a stark reminder to both how far we've come, but also in regards to how much more work we need to do. 57% of survey respondents said DBI was better than it was 2 years ago, but we scored just under 50% on questions related to customer service. Now, 70% of the respondents felt that the online permit tracking system that we know as PTS works well, but just 59% of the permit application forms and instructions were stated that the instruction forms were clear. For us, the most important outcome from this survey is that it establishes a baseline of data. And from that, we can learn to do better, measure our progress, and of course, chart a course for the future. This year, we will continue to focus on improving the customer experience, streamlining our services, continuing to implement reforms, and most of all, restore the public's trust in this department. First, we're exploring ways to streamline the permit and plan review processes by emphasizing digital options like EPR, which we know, which is electronic plan review. We know it as EPR, and increasing the efficiency of our operations generally. Neville has some great ideas on how to restructure our permit services to improve transparency and accountability. Now, secondly, we will improve our public outreach and provide more customer education on permit and our permit processes and our complaint process. We're overhauling our website and continue to work with our partners in the Permit Center to make your visits to 49 South Van Ness as fast and efficient as possible. And finally, I remain committed to maintaining an ethical workplace and fully implementing our reforms to improve our operations that will make DBI a more transparent and accountable place to the public. I want to reiterate, it's a new day at DBI. We've built a great team. Most of them are here with us today. And we have a fresh outlook, and we're looking forward to working with you over this coming year. Thank you. And with that, I'll hand it back to Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Buckley. I'm Director of Policy and Public Affairs at the Department of Building Inspection, and welcome to the Winter 2022 Public Advisory Forum. Right. So first up, we wanted to walk you through the Public Advisory Forum agenda. I also want to note a program change. In addition to getting the welcome and introductions, we will go through our customary meeting guidelines. But we did advance the program update to be the first item that you will hear today. So that is different than what was previously advertised, and that is due to a last minute change in staff schedules. But then after that, we will follow with a Permit Center update. You will hear from Rebecca Mayer, the director of the Permit Center, on both our public safety initiatives to keep everyone safe at the permit center and also some important updates for our customers. Then after that, we'll have Neville Pereira, our Deputy Director, Permit Services, provide you an update on the Permit Services Department. And then we also want to hear from you. I think the key component of these forums and how they're successful is to be able to hear from the public. So we both want to hear about topics for the future, but we also want to take your questions and hear your comments from us. We're joined by representatives from the Planning Department, from the Fire Department, the PUC, DPW, and you will have an array of DBI staff here to answer any questions or to address any comments that you have. And so we will try and get you out of here at 5 o'clock. So first up, our meeting guidelines. Department staff will speak on the listed agenda items. We have each item will be followed by the opportunity for attendees to ask questions or to make comments and suggestions. Our public comment call-in number is the same as it always is, but that is area code 415-655-0001, and the access code is 2492-606-2893. And to raise your hand for public comment on a specific agenda item, press *3 when prompted by the meeting moderator. We ask that you please be respectful of everyone's time and try and limit your comments to 1 minute or less for each topic. We also appreciate this, the opportunity to serve you, but at the same time, this is not the appropriate time to have a specific question about a specific project or application. Really, this is about how we're doing in service, and we want to hear from you there and less about your personal projects. So first up is our program updates. We wanted to provide an update to you on our Accessible Business Entrance Program, as well as our Facade Program. And what we will do on each item is after we hear that item, we will then take public comment from you on what was heard before you. So the Accessible Business Entrance Program, this is legislation that was passed last year. And that legislation builds off what the previous program had created. And ultimately, it extends the program deadline by 2 years. The program is designed to help property owners comply with existing state and federal accessibility laws by ensuring people with disabilities can access products and services through the main entrance of the businesses. And this will require existing businesses serving the public to feature primary entrances that are accessible to people with disabilities. And again, as a reminder, what's important to consider with this is anything that provides a public accommodation. So businesses that serve the public are generally included in this program. And as defined by law, a place of public accommodation is a place where the public will enter to purchase a good or services. And as you can see below, there is an array of different businesses that would meet that qualification. And if you have any questions about whether you qualify, we will get to that in a moment. So again, there's a change in the compliance schedule. The new schedule for you to submit your initial forms, and that is your pre-screening form, your waiver form, if you feel like you're already complying with the building requirements, and then also your category checklist compliance form. Those are all due by June 30th, 2022, so in a few months. So it's important if you are a small business owner, or if you are especially a property owner who has some of these businesses in your property, and you have not complied so far with the Accessible Business Entrance Program, now is the time to start. So first, after you've put in your initial forms, you then have to secure business permits and renovate your property. So again, these deadlines existed in the previous program, but they have been extended. So you will need to file an application for a building permit by the end of this calendar year. And then ultimately the construction that is required to bring the property into compliance will need to be done by the end of September 2023. So again, if you're a property owner and you're out there, or if you work with property owners, compliance is a requirement, but it's also in your interest. We see this as both a public good, but also something that can shield property owners from litigation. And so it's important that people understand both of those concepts. In addition, our deadline will be here. The first deadline will be here before you know it. And so it's really important that you act now to be able to comply with this program. And then lastly, if you're one of the approximately 13,000 addresses in San Francisco that have not yet initiated the compliance process, do it and do it now. We have upgraded our website. So if you check out our website at SF.gov and put in the Accessible Business Program as written down below, you'll be able to provide all the information you need for that program and all the information you need to be successful in navigating it. Next, we have the facade inspection program. So again, this was done by ordinance and was established in 2016. And the goal of the program is to ensure property owners safely maintain the exterior of their buildings. There's roughly about 1,630 properties that qualify, and buildings that are either 5 stories or more, or a type 1, 2, 3, or 4 construction are required to comply with this ordinance. So again, this program requires that facades are regularly inspected by a California licensed architect or engineer. And then ultimately the inspection and any work, maintenance work that needs to be done has to be documented in a report that's submitted to DBI. And then after the initial inspection, buildings must also be inspected and reported every 10 years. So this would be an initial inspection, but ultimately this is something you will need to do over a 10-year period. So the ordinance defines this based on tiers, which is based on the age of the property. And for any properties that are built or constructed prior to 1910, the deadline for submitting that report has passed. It was due at the end of this the end of last calendar year. And so if your building was built between 1910, 1925, it also will be due next year at the same time. And tier 3 also and tier 4 will follow in sequential order, each 2 years apart. And so again, it's really important if you own a building or you work with those who own buildings that were built prior to 1910, it's really important that you understand that that building needs to be maintained, and its facade especially needs to be maintained. So the process involved, building owners need to check the deadlines, and again, hire a California licensed architect or engineer to conduct the inspection and draft the report. Owner conducts any necessary maintenance, and it's up to you to be able to do the repairs and then submit the inspection report or waiver form to DBI. DBI has staff that will review the report and may issue comments that may require additional work. And then DBI assesses fees for that work. So it's important for you to understand that fee schedule as you do the work. And lastly, we are currently underway a robust engagement process. So we are both doing outreach within the building community to ensure that people are aware of the deadlines and ensuring that they have compliance. And we also have an SF.gov website that's dedicated to this program, which will provide you with all the information you need on anything that was provided here, but also additional information about qualifying buildings and how to submit your report. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and we have staff available to answer any questions you have related to our DBI programs.
We have one caller in the queue. Mr. Kornilowicz, you are unmuted.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thank you. And thanks for putting this on. Hey, Jeff, just wondering, can you go ahead and provide the links to go to regarding the facade letters that you need, and also for the accessible business entrances? I'd like to get that out there. And on the facades, what sort of letters do you want? Is there a template or something on what sort of presentation do you want on these letters? Because you could have a 30-page document written up on this, and it could be something that's just a couple of pages. So that's the other questions that I have.
Thank you, Henry. Tom Fessler, would you be able to answer those questions about the submittal?
Yeah, sure. I think the best way to go about this is go to the department website, and there's an administrative bulletin 110 that addresses the facade program, and there's an information sheet S-21 for the facade program. The question, there's a lot of different ways to address the program, so I would suggest people go to those locations on our website to see how to comply with the program.
Okay, there are no new callers in the queue, or there appear not to be. Check that. Nope, no new callers in the queue.
Thanks for the question. So next up on our agenda, we have an update from the Permit Center. So I'll turn it over to Rebecca Mayer, the director of the San Francisco Permit Center.
Thanks, Jeff. Can I have control to share our little deck?
You should have it now.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Let's see. And share. Okay. Hi, everyone. We just have a few small updates today. First up, just a health and safety reminder. And I think everybody knows these. We're not really seeing an issue on the floor, but just make sure you have well-fitted masks. If we see you don't have one, we will politely come and offer you a new one. Eating and drinking is still not permitted on the floor at this time. This one we're seeing a little bit of lapsing on, so if we could ask you to stay behind the viral guards, please, for your safety and our staff safety, and stay on your side of the counter. I do have seen customers kind of slipping around to be able to look at plans the same way, but this is not a forever thing. So for right now, while we're in the surge, if we can keep a little distance between you and our staff. And I hope you all know this. Don't come to the Permit Center or any place if you're not feeling well. And most importantly, if you have a health and safety concern, please come and talk to our staff. Let us know. Let us know any issues, or if you have any suggestions for us. We're happy to hear them. But please don't hesitate to come and talk to us. Okay, next up, we want to remind everybody that wait times are on the Permit Center site. And you can find us at sf.gov/Permit Center. And we are linked in various places off the DBI site and the other department site as well. But remember, on the website, we'll give you real-time looks at what the wait times are in the Permit Center. This is particularly important when we have unexpected issues like we did yesterday with power outages. And so you would have seen that the intake counters were closed at that time. So just a reminder, so if you're not coming right at the beginning of the day, to check in before you come, just so you know what your experience is going to be like, and you may decide to pivot and come a different day. And just a reminder to coming earlier will help guarantee shorter wait times for you. We get a little bit busy around the lunch and afternoon time period, so arriving in the morning will help with your wait times throughout the day. Next up, we have a new service that we're happy to announce, and some of you who have been here may have noticed it. So we've opened a small business center on our floor. It's tucked over by counters 1 through 24, but you, like everything else, would need to check in with the permit center first, and then we'll help route you to our new print center. The print center offers copy, printing, and scanning services. So if you're a Public Works customer and you have just finished up your street space permitting, you will receive an email, and on that email will direct link you to our print. It will give you an option to go directly to our print center and submit your sign. And you can have this printed on site and leave here with printing signs on, special plastic coated paper, really creating that one-stop experience for you here. And then, similarly, if you're doing a plan review and you need a particular sheet reprinted, you can do that here. Or if you have a set of plans that needs to be, like if you come in with an 8.5 by 11 set of plans, but it needs to be scaled up to 11 by 17, that's something that the print center folks can do as well. So, so again, copy, printing, and scanning for now. Later in the spring, we'll be adding notary services if you need that. And like everything else, please come to the print center or the info desk at the permit center, and our staff will be there to walk you through how to navigate the app, submit your job, answer any questions, and route you to the print center over by sort of on the South Venice side of the floor. And then next up, and this is our last big announcement, we are going to be making some enhancements and changes to queue lists in the future. So I know many of you know Gus, the customer service manager. He has been working with the vendors to design a new queue list kiosk. It'll be a self-service kiosk for customers so that you can add yourselves into the department queues. So this is similar to what you were doing at 1660 before, where you were able to put yourself into the lines you needed to be in. Once we have launched and we are ready, we feel like customers are ready to transition into the next big improvement, we will then be adding multiple queuing. And so that will allow you to be in multiple queues at one time, and we will let you control that. But we want to make sure that the self-service kiosks are stable. And then we'll move on to that second enhancement immediately following that stabilization period. This is coming in April 2022. And then we just wanted to make sure that customers were aware. So if there are longer than normal wait times in the permit center, so 60 minutes plus, so when you add yourself into the queue and you find out, oh, that it's going to be a long time before I can see someone, come talk to a permit center staff member. Somebody on the customer service team can work with you and put you into an additional queue so that you can do, you can multitask basically. So while you're waiting for your original queue that you just entered, we can get you into another queue that has a shorter wait time so that you can have parallel activities happening. Okay, but you need to do that through a permit center team member, and we're happy to assist. So just pop by the info desk, pictured here, and somebody will help you. That is it. Ready for questions?
Thanks, Rebecca. So we'll take any questions that anyone has for the permit center.
Arnie Lerner, you are unmuted.
Yeah, I was just wondering if projects that are focused on barrier removal or disability issues still being given priority processing? And does staff know about that?
I was not aware that we were giving, I don't, actually, if Gus is on the call, I will need him to jump in. I wasn't aware of any priority processing for in-person projects.
Why not?
I guess I could step in. I'm Jimmy Chung with the OTC manager for building. AB17 barrier removal job. It's just like any over-the-counter project. You just get in line. It's probably, you'll be seen the same day within an hour. So it's going to be like priority since it's being reviewed and approved over the counter.
Okay, next caller. Henry Kornilowicz, you are unmuted.
Yeah, hi, thanks very much. I just got some signs printed today at the Repro Center. It was great. I paid for it last night. This morning.
Henry, we lost you.
Oh, you hear me now?
Yes, and we want to hear your compliment.
Well, let me tell you, somebody told me about the Repro Center, and it was wonderful that I ordered last night and paid the fee, and this morning they're ready, printed, ready to go. So great service. I told some other folks that that service is available, and none were aware of it. So it's great. The question I have, Rebecca, what about 24 by 36? Will you be printing those size drawings, or is it just 11 by 17?
No, we can do 24 by 36. So I have to look at the site again. There's 3 different large format sizes we do. So the plotter is there. We do, and really, it's a great question because the idea was that we wanted to offer boutique printing for the larger construction plans is really where this idea started. And then the parking signs folded into it. But yep, we'll do the big, the larger sizes also. And I believe right now we're not scanning those big sheets, but we will be in the near future. So that'll be later this spring also.
There are no more callers in the queue.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry, there's one late addition. Who I cannot unmute for some reason. Tori N, I can't unmute you, so you may want to hang up or try reconnecting. Thank you. I think we can go to the next item.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate it. John, if I could share my screen.
Should have access.
I do. Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to hear from Deputy Director Neville Pereira on the permit services update. Neville?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to leave a lot of room in my session for questions and answers, just because I believe these forums are here to hear more from the public rather than me. But I'm going to give you a quick update of what's happening with permit services. So my division essentially oversees all technical and engineering services, right? So it's plan review, technical services division, code adoption programs that you heard Jeff talk about earlier on, and then all of the what I call permit coordination, which you may know as the intake process, Central Permit Bureau, and permit processing. So just a little bit to start with on our COVID response. Thank you, Rebecca, for that excellent update on the permit center. As of January 6th, we sent all of our plan reviewers essentially to work remotely, work off site to keep our staff as safe as possible, with the exception of those individuals that wanted to work in the office all the time, and or people that are covering the counter. So that was necessary. So essentially, staff was staying home, with the exception of coming into work possibly two days a week to keep our public counter open. Public counter over-the-counter services are still very much in effect without any restriction, and there are some hiccups here and there. Like you heard yesterday, we had a power outage that was unforeseen. And I hope you can understand that this is a sensitive time for all the public and employees as well. So occasionally, our staff has been told that if they feel that something's coming on, to stay out of the office to keep the chance of transmissibility, whether it's the virus, whether it's a flu virus or COVID virus. We want to make sure that the public and our staff are safe. So what we're starting to experience is that there may be slight interruptions in our service, and as Rebecca said, we will announce it on the website first, to let you know that we have compromised services here and there. But anyway, the public counter is open for plan review, and our phones are open as well. All staff have had their desk phones transferred to their computers so they can answer that remotely. You should not get any interruptions or any delays in your phone calls. So if you do, please let us know about it. Those phone services should be active and fully in effect. As Rebecca said, I wanted to encourage the public to be respectful and of our current situation, and likewise, I've told staff to be respectful of the public as well during these times where we're trying to get the work done as best as possible, but recognize that if you are if you need to communicate with the plan checker or with permit technicians, don't walk around the sneeze guards or the plastic barriers. Just raise your volume or your voice a little bit to be able to communicate. People are sensitive about surfaces that are touched and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that if the plan checker feels uncomfortable, I've asked them to communicate that respectfully to staff. If you are maybe have a sniffle or a cough and the plan checker feels uncomfortable, I've also asked them to be able to take the plan and check it away from the counter and then bring it back. So again, it's a time of heightened sensitivity. I hope we understand that we're all a little sensitive about the way things are. Recognize also that what Rebecca stated earlier, that we have this historical increase of volume in and around the middle of the day, right? Starting probably from around 10 o'clock to around 2 o'clock. Recognize that that's a time that we need extra resources, and sometimes those resources aren't available. And if you can at all schedule your meeting or your time to come down to the department in the early morning or late afternoon, that may help us get you handled in a time effective way. Our permit techs, as you may have noticed, those of you that have been into the counter are in the office in full force. They weren't given the opportunity to go home like the plans examiners, just because the public are in person, and they have most of their processes are manual at this point. Recognize that as well, that this group of individuals are extremely hardworking, and that they don't currently enjoy or have the ability to work at home. And so sensitivity to that and mutual respect again is much appreciated. So there are really no changes to our over-the-counter process. Things are busy as usual, but we are working behind the scenes to effectively move our processes to to electronic or paperless as much as we can. We have teams of other city employees from digital services and the permit center as well, looking to make some of these transitions in the background. And as those become available, we'll be certainly advertising those to you ahead of time, or letting them know that they're coming ahead of time. I know there's been a little bit of concern lately that I received regarding the need to have wet stamps and signatures on plans, and whereas there are changes at the state level, and with the Engineers Practice Act as well as the Architects Practice Act. I'm looking to have that changed as soon as possible. Our code currently states that wet signatures are required, and so I'm working internally with our staff and our city and county council to change the code to reflect what the way the state has gone and where current practice has gone, to allow electronic signatures on documents, especially as we go to this era of paperless way of doing business. So with that, actually, Jeff, I'll just open it up for questions because I'm eager to hear from my customers.
Great, thanks, Neville.
All right. First question, Amanda Dunbar. You are unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I work at an architecture firm in San Francisco. I have a little bit of feedback regarding DPW. So in October of last year, our office was working on 2 projects where DPW issued us our street improvement permits after our contractor or concrete subcontractor submitted their certification of authorized agent forms. So
Okay.
we're like, okay, we're ready to start work on the new sidewalks. But then like the day after our permits were issued, suddenly we receive an email from a department in DPW called Monument Preservation. And then the email was saying that we cannot pour concrete until we do a survey locating potential monuments on our site. So then, of course, like this delayed our construction schedule. And then I tried calling DPW to talk to someone from Monument Preservation to explain to me the whole process. And then I left a voicemail message, but then I get an email back from them saying that for documentation purposes, all communication must be done over email, not over the phone. So since then, no one's been able to like fully explain to me the process of monument preservation or why we weren't notified about monuments months prior to our permit issuance. So I'm just asking that monument preservation at least sends out their notification about monuments when DPW permits are submitted initially, not the day after the permits are issued.
Okay.
That's a question that I think DPW can handle. Just got notified that the representative from DPW had an unexpected issue and is unable to attend. I can, Amanda, take down your information and make sure to connect you with representatives from DPW to address that issue. Okay. Next question.
David Penn, you are unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. Deputy Director, thank you. I want to commend you and OTC Manager Jimmy Chung on, I think, the really remarkable job the department's done on bringing OTC back and really operating really smoothly and efficiently. And my questions really are around ways that the department could utilize OTC to help further the full department efficiency, and particularly in Form 3s. And specifically, my questions are around the old process. Applicants used to be able to request OTC review of Form 3 projects. If there's any talk of bringing that back, I know that, at least I believe that your department is screening Form 3s for potential OTC candidates. But I'm wondering if you would consider or are considering bringing the applicant request application back. And then similarly, the site permit conversion process, which I don't believe ever really fully kind of got implemented by the department, but a policy does exist to convert site permits to full permits. And I think that could save both the department a lot of review time when one permit, one submission could be reviewed instead of multiple site permit plus multiple addendum. So I wanted to ask about that. And then my last question was similar to signature on plans and just kind of the old requirement to submit geotech reports to the state on CD. I believe the state requirement is to submit a digital copy of the reports, but I was hoping the department could provide some clarification of whether or not USB or thumb drives could be provided if, you know, in an envelope properly labeled with APN number, et cetera, in lieu of CDs, which are just increasingly hard to find as our CD burners. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, your name again was?
David Penn with GBA.
David. Okay, David, yes. Okay, so, you know, the issue of reviewing Form 3 permits, you know, and entertaining requests to do those over the counter, it's interesting. Yes, we've actually had these conversations. In my mind, that should be definitely something that should be entertained, as opposed to just strictly Form 8 type projects. Look, the world that I'm used to isn't necessarily tied to these historical, you know, ways of doing business. It's just what makes sense. And you're correct that we're looking at screening projects as they come in to be able to, on the fly, determine whether projects are eligible for, you know, over the counter and or back room or somewhere in between. You heard me talk about that last time. So yes, to answer your question, we are entertaining that right now. It makes perfect sense to do that within the scope of what they can do over the counter. And like I may have said before, even if it's marginally beyond the counter, there may be other avenues for that project to get let's say a faster way of getting through the system rather than waiting through the normal intake process. And so as you said, the site permit conversion to a full permit, my understanding of the site permit is that it's somewhat voluntary, especially for smaller projects. Maybe on the larger projects, it's necessary to get those entitlements in place. But you have to understand, in my mind or in our mind, the site permit review is a kind of an oversight view of the project from a high level and not a very detailed view. So I know I've heard that some projects come in fully baked. They got a full set of plans, full set of calculations, and they come in through the site permit process. All things being equal, those projects should go through with a relatively light level of overview. and not a full overview, even though the documentation is fully there. Just because the site permit process is a general overview type of thing to allow planning to establish conditions of approval before letting the project through. So when that site approval is made, you know, at that point, a full, I mean, a conversion may be appropriate, but then it goes through a full review at that point as a full permit, as opposed to some individuals that are coming through a process and saying, look, I had full plans, I had full calculations during the site permit process. It should therefore be deemed approved, and just, you know, I should have my full building permit now. That is something that I don't believe was the intent, and I believe that's the reason why we're scrutinizing that whole conversion process. But you stated that there is a process in place to look at that, and I do know that Director Reardon and myself are looking at that whole, you know, looking at those requests to make sure that those are properly vetted. We are doing that currently, and the number of asks off that conversion are getting a little more frequent right now, and it just causes me to look at that entire process to see how valid it is. The third part of your question had to do with submitting soil reports on CD. You're right. It should be in digital format. And I've just got to see whether our existing protocol involves us mailing something. If that's the case, you know, we can certainly look at mailing a thumb drive in addition, or not in addition, instead of a CD. But I will definitely look into that and be able to maybe report out the next time on that. So thank you, David, for your comments.
There do not appear to be any other callers in the queue.
Okay.
All right, this is your opportunity to speak with Neville Pereira. If you have any other, if you would like to get in contact with us, again, the number that you can reach is 415-655-0001, and the access code is 2492-606-2893. Thank you, Neville.
Thank you.
Right, so our next topic is suggestions for future topics. So if there are any ideas that you would like us to focus on, now is the opportunity for you to be able to speak to us. And as our next public advisory forum will be on Wednesday, April 27th. But this is your opportunity to help shape what it is that we're discussing.
No callers in the queue.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so you'll have this opportunity. So really, this is your opportunity to provide any comment to us on any issues that you see, whether it's with permit services or our inspection division or any other issues for any of the departments here. Please let us know.
We have one caller in the queue.
Hello, this is Karen Leonardo. I work for a firm in the city. We're trying to get a permit for evacuation plans, and the submittal guidelines is a bit confusing. Do we submit, we have a project that are SROs, and it is not a new construction. We're just doing evacuation plans, signage for them. Do we submit through DBI, San Francisco Fire, and MOD, or just through DBI?
That is a good question. Nev, I'm going to go to you first, but let me know if that's an appropriate question for another staff person.
No, that's fine. So it is a request for a building permit, and our staff will determine what other agencies are required for that review. So just go ahead and submit to DBI. We will include MOD and any other agencies that need to be involved in that review.
Okay, one more caller, David Penn. You are unmuted.
Hello, yes, thank you. David Penn again from GBA. At the risk of sounding a bit like a broken record, I guess I just wanted to bring up again how helpful it would be to have PTS portals at the permit center, as was the case at 1160. There are now portals for computers available to the public to access the online version of PTS, but there is additional information about inspections, notice of violations, complaints, building topology that is used to be accessible in the obviously uneditable, unchangeable access to PTS that was provided in 1660 previously. And it would be great to have access to that information again. So I just thought I would bring that up again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Your points taken. I don't have any history with that. It sounds like a good idea. Recognize that there are some screens, especially for complaint information, that are should be redacted and that kind of stuff. So I'm assuming we got that handled. Complaint information is generally redacted from public screens, but sounds like a reasonable request. Just recognize, David and others, that there's a tremendous amount of effort that's spearheaded by Rebecca, the Director of Permit Services, and others to make this information readily available to the public, and so that you can serve yourselves as opposed to coming in and asking us to serve up that information for you. But it helps to have this dialogue and have your needs voiced publicly, so that we, holds us to task, make sure that those are available. But to recognize that those initiatives are already happening right now.
There are no more callers in the queue at this time.
All right, attendees, this is your opportunity to talk with city staff about the permit process and hear from, this is our opportunity to hear from you. So if you want to get in touch, this is the time.
We have one caller. Shannon Devine, you are unmuted.
Hi, talking about site permits. When you have a new building and it's being built on a level site, it's very expensive to have the a site survey done before you get your planning review. And can you tell planning that they don't have to have a legal survey, especially when it's a flat site, until after the planning approvals have been submitted and you're going to building? Because I've had clients stop their whole project because they had to spend $5,000 without any guarantee that they could even get planning approvals. And so I wasn't able to put in a it was a housing project. Because they just didn't want to, they'd already spent money on me and they didn't want to spend money. That was just a bridge too far. So I think the planning should say, accept the project, especially when it's on flat ground with no soils, extreme soil conditions. And then when it goes to building, get the site survey, a legal site survey. That's all.
Thanks for the question. I noted that our planning staff had to leave, but I will make sure to connect you with Elizabeth Waddy, who oversees the current planning division, to ensure that your question is answered.
There are no more callers in the queue.
Okay, again, I'll put in a plug. This is your opportunity to ask any questions that you have for city staff. So if you want to ask a question, now is the time.
We have a caller. Arnie Lerner, you are unmuted.
Yeah, a previous question I had was, I was really talking about projects that are taken in. And in the past, accessibility projects were given priority processing. Is that still the case?
Let me try to understand this, Arnie. So if your project, if it's just purely for barrier removal, I think Jimmy may have answered that earlier on. That certainly sounds like it's eligible for an over-the-counter review. If it's coming in as a kind of a business type of a permit, what we label as Prop H type projects, that has its own priority as well. That's already established by legislation. So I think either way, I think it is looking at it as a somewhat as a priority project. I don't know of anything else. Unless you're doing a major renovation to an existing building. I mean, Jimmy, you wanna
Yeah.
jump in on that one?
I pulled up information. I pulled up Administrative Bulletin AB004, Priority Processing Guidelines, and one of the items is permit application for work solely consisting of disabled access improvements. So I guess Arnie should read AB4. There's required documents to be filled out by you as the requester and by DBI as the requestee. And if it's approved, then it's going to be then it's given priority. But it's not an automatic thing. You have to request for it, and we have to be approved. But look at Administrative Bulletin AB004.
Thank you, Jimmy. So Jeff, am I able? Is Arnie still on the line?
He should be. He is still an attendee, so yes.
Okay. I just wondered. I mean, as he came on again, is he experiencing anything differently than that? So maybe it's because he's not requesting it. Off the bat, are we able to unmute him again?
I unmuted him.
No, I'm not experiencing that now. Just was a process question.
Okay. So recognize that the process exists, and that it just needs to be identified. And Jimmy, is that a quick approval, or does it take a while?
I think it's a quick approval. It just needs it needs to be flagged by the by the applicant. We don't go looking for it. If they don't want to have priority processing, we don't give it to them, you know, so if, you know, so I guess everybody should look at that and see if their job fits into one of the items in there and then make a request for it. But it goes to supervisor approval or deputy director approval. So
Sure, and you know that this is a good point. You know that maybe should be brought up, Arnie. That you know, in my experience, not everybody knows the ins and outs of ABs and you know special expedites and all this kind of stuff, and that's really incumbent on our staff to identify that. There is a lot out there. I got to be honest with you. There's a lot out there that requires either special processing or something like that. But just know that we're engaging in training to bring consistency to staff, so that they may be able to look at these things and be able to easily identify them, as opposed to you having to get this process in line at the ahead of time. And you know, so at any time, maybe the screeners or somebody can identify, hey, you know, this is eligible for something, as opposed to putting that on staff. So just know I recognize that possibility of us improving our process. Arnie, thank you for bringing that up.
So this is your last opportunity to provide a comment or to ask a question. So if you haven't already, or if you have an additional question, now is the time to be able to ask a question to city staff.
No callers in queue.
Okay. Well,
Arnie Lerner has asked again. 1 second here. Mr. Lerner, you're unmuted.
Okay. Yeah, Part 8 of the California Building Code is about historical buildings, and I'm just wondering what, you know, to be able to use that, those alternatives. What's your process for approving qualified historic buildings, so they can use Part 8, which gives them in terms of requirements if it's a qualified historic building?
Yeah, so if your project is, if you can provide our staff, because I don't believe we have a resource available to look at, you know, historical resources in the city. You may have to go to planning ahead of time to get that determination. Then, as soon as you have that with you, that document or that letter can accompany the project, and that should be all that you need to exercise that. Now, know that in Part 8 there are certain restrictions as to what you can do, and obviously you as a design professional or your design professional should know those requirements. It's not just hey, I'm going to rip this out and put in a 36-inch high guardrail, although that may be appropriate too, depending on how much of the existing portion that you're keeping. But yep, that's part of our code, Arnie, and you're entitled to use it.
Neville, I'd like to mention that on our website under resources and forms and handouts, all the way on the bottom under other forms and packets has a link to request to use the historic building code. And they fill out that form and they give it to TSD, and TSD will do a research on the project to see if it's historic or not and write a letter, and it'll tell you what you can or cannot use, and it'll also recommend to do a pre-application meeting with the building department.
Okay.
So there's a process but it's in our forms and handouts.
Okay, well there you have it. I mean, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at there's a process for that, so just go ahead and follow that.
Okay. Frank Lockery.
hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is a little more prosaic of an issue here. So as a contractor, I've been dealing with DBI for decades here. Haven't had a lot of trouble, but our latest revision, it's a downsized project. And it's been in DBI for 11 months, almost 11 months. So under the hold description column, under the permit details report, is there a way to find out or highlight exactly where it's stuck? I mean, I can pretty much parse it out, but it's still a little bit confusing, and I've been dealing with DBI for a long time. So is there a way to, I don't know, highlight it or bold it or something like that?
Yeah. So what was your name again, sir?
Frank Lockery.
Frank. Frank. So I hear a lot. I mean, I hear this sometimes, right? People are stuck for months on end, and
Yeah.
all I can say is that you're entitled to a callback. Hopefully, 24 hours to 48 hours or so from whoever you call about that. If you're not getting that, then escalate it. I'm going to say that publicly. You're entitled to a callback.
Yeah, I mean, 11 months is a little ridiculous, don't you think?
Yeah. And there may be reasons we just need to be able to identify that as soon as possible. Your patience is appreciated, but there may be a reason that we may think that we're waiting on you, and you're thinking we're waiting on you may think we're waiting on ourselves or whatever.
Well, that's what I'm trying to clarify. Who's waiting on who, and I can sort of, there is language in there, but it's not crystal clear.
Okay.
So I'll call the architect, and then he'll call in, and he does get an answer, but that's after we get an answer pretty quickly, but nothing happens for months until we, press the issue, as you said. And that's a little frustrating.
Okay. All right. That is frustrating. I recognize that. I was going to say, call me, but I'm not going to say call me. Just escalate it through the supervisor if you can, and then eventually we'll get resolution. But you shouldn't have to wait months to find out.
Okay. Ann Cervantes, you are unmuted.
Thank you. I have a question going back. I was trying to figure out how to ask that question because I wrote it in the chat. But it's going back to the ADA compliance and the facade inspection. There are a number of families in the Mission that have multiple properties they own where they operate their business on the ground floor level. And a lot of them have commercial businesses which are restaurants, and they're trying to recover from COVID. And they're financially, the families do live in the buildings above because it's residential over commercial. And is there any consideration for the financial impact to these families that are trying to recover and your compliance with the ADA and the facade improvement, inspection program?
So you're the last part of that. Question. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was just going to note that, just as a reminder, the facade program requires the building to be 5 stories or more. I just want to of type 1, 2, 3, or 4 construction. So number one, I think that issue needs to be a reminder of exactly when of which buildings qualify. And then also, unless the building is built prior to 1910, that there is, time for you to be able to do the engineering report that's necessary to be able to bring yourself into compliance. But I do want to, if there's anything else, either Tom Fessler or Neville, that you would like to add. I'm not aware of any resources that we have to assist property owners, but maybe Tom, that might be a question for you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
The question is that is there any assistance to building owners that may have financial resource issues in complying with these programs?
With the ABE program, yes, there is. That is run through the Office of Small Business. I don't know if they're here on the call today. I don't think there is anybody, but there are some programs through the Office of Small Business that help property owners and tenants to comply with the ABE program. There's assistance to perhaps, hire CAS certified inspectors to inspect the entrance. There's lists of CAS inspectors that do that type of work in San Francisco and design professionals. So those programs are run through the Office of Small Business.
Tom, I believe the question was directed at the facade program.
Okay. No, there was, I'm sorry, somebody came to my desk and anyways. No, the facade program, to my knowledge, there isn't any program for helping people do the survey, or there isn't any monetary.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Caller call in user, sorry, 415-806. You are unmuted.
Yeah, my name's Jim Treeman. I'm an architect. I do a lot of residential work in the city, and I'm curious if this is the appropriate venue to talk about the information sheet EG02.
Sure.
So, I mean, that makes it really challenging for my clients to develop the bottom floor of their house. A lot of people are coming to me asking for more, to get more space. So is this a permanent kind of interpretation of this code? Is this going to go on, just the new, kind of the new normal here? That you're required to have some sort of breezeway that goes from the backyard to the public way in order to have code compliant egress windows in the backyard or the back wall.
Let me clarify. I think you said that it's preventing some of your clients that have first floor additions or remodels. Is that right?
So yeah, we're trying to develop the first floor, and often getting a breezeway isn't possible.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify.
It's just impractical in a lot of ways, and it seems like it went for so many years where that wasn't an issue, and suddenly it is, and it's making it more difficult for clients to develop their downstairs.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify something there, and I'm sorry. Your name again was
Jim.
Jim. Okay. So Jim, the only thing that's changed with EG02 is essentially to justify rescuability out of emergency egress openings or emergency rescue openings, right? So if you're on the ground floor and you have, you just literally 44 inches or a little bit more than that off of grade, that's not an issue. Because you're certainly able to self-rescue out of a first floor emergency rescue opening. The concern comes in second and third floor emergency rescue openings where you're not able to self-rescue because you're too high off the ground. That's where the concern is, and you need to provide proof of rescuability for emergency personnel. We're not asking for that passageway to the front of the house for first floor. You just need to be able to self-rescue to a yard that's at least 25 feet away from the building. Does that make sense to you? Sorry, did we lose him?
No, I thank you for the clarification. That's actually super helpful. So what you're saying is on the second, like if they wanted to add a third floor and put a bedroom on that third floor, then it would be required to have some sort of connection or breezeway from the rear yard to the public way. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and the easiest way is to provide vertical access or vertical egress down to the ground. And the easiest way I can think of do that is to provide a deck and the stairway down to the backyard. If you're able to justify rescue, self-rescue that way,
Self-rescue. Interesting. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. It's only if you have an emergency egress window and you don't want to provide the ability to self-rescue, then you got to show how you're going to provide rescue ability for emergency personnel.
Okay, caller Bert Martinez, you are unmuted.
Hello, how are you? Hey, I have a general question about ADUs in new construction. We're tending to have these 2 to 3 unit buildings and with an ADU, but the process seems to be that the ADUs are kind of separate. I mean, they don't run parallel, so we wind up doing a site permit for the ADU and a site permit for the main building and an addendum for the ADU and an addendum for the building permit. So is there any way in the future you guys can streamline that so it happens at the same time and we don't have to wait one to be approved before we get the other one approved?
Yeah, certainly. Is it Bert, your name?
Yeah.
Okay. That certainly seems to be the best option. The reason why we bifurcate the projects at this point is because we have this priority processing for the ADU versus non-priority for the rest of the building, and to be able to meet those deadlines, we asked that they be bifurcated. And so, I mean, in an ideal world, if we, if we were able to get our processing times, to a point where we can process these things and meet those expectations of legislation and everything, we would certainly be able to keep them together. But I think that's the reason for it right now.
There are no more callers in the queue.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This event was recorded and we will provide access to the record on our website. So that's something for you to look out for. We want to thank you for attending. We also want to thank city staff for being here. Thank you and stay safe.